We're back on with the Golf today. Now, for those of you that don't know, we are trying to turn this £500 Golf GTI into something that will gap a Golf R effortlessly. So that's the plan. Right, what we're doing so far, gearbox is out because that was screwed. We've got another one. Whilst we're doing that, we're going to replace the clutch. But then I've gone a little bit mad because I've decided to replace the coolant junction. I've decided to replace the main coolant pipe because that was leaking. We're also doing a catch can on it. We've been and fetched that. We're also putting a new turbo on it because why not if you want it to gap a Golf R. We're also going to tune the living daylights out of it. Stage 2 plus is what we're thinking. For that, I'm going to need a timing belt kit, so that's coming later on. So there is loads and loads to do. But at the moment, I'm just about to take the inlet manifold off so that I can get to the PCV system and sort out that catch can, put the billet breather in as well, so that does away with that horrible plastic one that leaks. So we are rapidly getting towards seeing this car on the road and getting tuned. And let me show you some of the new parts I've got over here. So we've got all the hose we need for the catch can, all the blue stuff. We've got a Cytec Performance fuel pump. There's the billet crankcase breather with all the relevant bits. We have also got the catch can there. We've got a fuel filter ready to go in. We have the coolant junction, which is there. We've also got a new clutch. That's a slave cylinder for the clutch. New clutch. We've got gearbox oil. We've got coolant. We are good to go. Now, today, I also have the 550cc injectors turning up. I also have the injector cups to replace the rubbish plastic ones in the inlet manifold, and the turbo is coming. So we should be pretty much sorted then. Gone round the corner to the parts place to get an inlet manifold gasket and a timing belt kit, all being well, including water pump. And that should be every part we need to get this to gap a Golf R. So stay tuned, keep watching, because we're going to go through all the different bits that we do, installing all the different parts. We're going to go through the tune, and then ultimately, the bit everyone's waiting for, road test it, see if we can do a wheelie. Sorted. Right, let's crack on. Now, it's fair to say we've pulled a lot of crap out of this engine bay that either causes problems with getting power or restricts power, and this is no different. This is a load of vac lines that come off the manifold and basically go back into the turbo inlet pipe, and this is all coming out as well because when we fit our catch can, all this can just go. So far we've already removed the combi valve, we've removed all the SAI lines, we've removed the SAI pump, and then in a minute we're going to be taking care of this PCV system because that rubbish plastic elbow there, I've cleaned it up, but you can see it's been leaking everywhere. So all that's getting replaced, and it's just going to go straight up to a catch can so that we know we're going to capture all that nasty oil acid residue that comes out the crankcase so that we don't have that recirculating through the engine and clogging everything up, because that's just a problem and it eats bearings. Now, there's a load of people, I'm sure, in the comments who will say, no, you shouldn't take all this off a car, but when you are pushing for power, unfortunately, all this stuff has to go because it just gets in the way. So we're going to pull this off. That's that mass of rubbish gone. That leaves us a lot of room actually to get on with everything. And as we can see then, I can bolt this new coolant line down as well properly because I'm going to have access. We can get all the inlet manifold mating surface cleaned up and ready to go. Going to put a new gasket on there because, well, that one has seen better days as we can see. So we'll get this off and then we'll start doing the inlet manifold and getting the injectors and everything else in. That is almost out. There we go. So that is a mass of junk that can essentially get fished through there and get taken out. I wonder if there's going to be access to get it through. Oh, it's coming. Of course, there's always a wiring harness clipped onto it when you want to get it out, isn't there? Let's pop that out there. There we go. Yes, success. There we go. Load of rubbish. And that, I guarantee there would have been leaks along there without a shadow of a doubt. So half of that's probably been letting air in or letting vacuum out, causing the idles to be unstable. So yeah, that's in the bin. Awesome. Let's crack on. So, inlet manifold undone. Let's fetch this off because we need to put new injectors and new injector cups in it as well. So there we are. There's a few little vac ports we've got to blank off under there. But for the most part, that is, fuel, that's good as gold. So, new gasket going on. Oh, see how the injectors have been seeping. You can see all the crud from where the cups have been seeping. But good news, valves look relatively clean. I suppose that's the beauty of port injection though, right? You're constantly getting fuel spraying on the valve, so good news. So we'll give that a clean up, hoover that out a little bit, make sure it's all good as gold, and then we'll get this fitted up. Let's go get the injectors out. Right, great news, the turbo has just turned up, and I think the injector cups might have just arrived as well. So we're gonna bust into this and have a quick look. So, oh no, it's some sweets. Oh, it is the injector cups, but it's also some sweets. Yes, so there we are, billet injector cups rather than the crappy plastic ones that crack. So they're going in, right, and free bag of sweets. That's lovely, that. I like a free bag of sweets, but the main event, tell you what, I've gone for the max speeding rods one. I know I'm going to get some hate in the comments for this because everyone's going to be like, it'll blow up in a few miles, but I've heard good things about these turbos. I mean, look at the quality of the actual badge they send you. It's a fully embossed 3D badge. That's awesome. But the main event, obviously, is this, which is my Mk4 001 turbo, which apparently forms more or less a bolt-on replacement for the KO3S that's in that car, and that is looking pretty good. So the reason I've gone for this one is because it's a full billet compressor wheel. Let's have a look. Yeah, so it's full billet internals there, and it is silicon molybdenum housing as well, which can take even more heat. So all being well, this should withstand a lot of abuse, all being well. And by the looks of it as well, the turbo inlet pipe I've already got on the car will go straight on there, so there's zero modification. That I'm in love with. Right, now we need to get fitting it. So that's going to be the next thing. Right, let's get back on with the injectors and then we'll get to the turbo shortly. Get in. The good news is that mess is out the way. Now I've still got to take off this hose up here that goes to the hockey puck because as part of the catch can system, that's getting replaced. So essentially what I'm going to do is drop this elbow on here, have this coming down to a T-piece into the PCV system. But as you can see, I've already undone that. So all we've got to do now is prise out the clip, which, to be fair, the access isn't great because there's all wiring and brackets in the way, as always. You know, I mean, how are you supposed to do this with everything built up is beyond me because there's just literally no access to get the clip out. But what we'll do is try and steer it round that way. Oh, okay, that's coming. Yeah, it is on the way. It's going to be fun to get back in this one, I'll tell you. There we go, that's almost there. Oh, it won't release yet. Either way, right, while I get that clip out, let me show you. I'm going to replace that plastic elbow with this billet one because we know that's not going to rot out the same as that one does. And obviously that's the elbow going on the top. Then we've got a T-piece to pick up the pipe. So I'm going to mount the catch can somewhere in this area. I haven't decided 100% yet, but wherever looks the best and wherever the pipes work the best. So let's get the rest of that PCV out. That runs, that's going to remove all of that. So that creates us a little bit more room as well, and it's going to look a bit better and it's going to perform way better. So crack on and get this out. So we are at the point where the manifold is out, as you can see. I've got the fuel rail out and I'm just testing these new injectors. Now, big problem, you can probably see that the plug inlet is different. Now, they do come with pigtails, in all fairness, as you can see here, but that means unexpected issue. We've got to splice this wiring into the injector wiring on the car, but these are only like basic 280, 300cc injectors. These are 550s, as you can see on the side. So these are going to supply a lot more fuel and get us a lot more power. Now, they fit into the rail nicely, so I'm going to get these swapped over. But it's pretty obvious here when I was talking about the injector cups leaking before, you can see all of this sludge and seepage from where these plastic rubbish cups have been leaking. So they're probably cracked and done for, so that's why we're replacing them with the billet ones. Happy days. So we're going to get all that cracked on, and you should see this all built up, and then I've got to pass it over to Dan, who is not very happy with me because he's got to splice some wiring together. So not only did we have the drama with the injector wiring being different, but as you know, I was changing the injector cups. Well, let's just say these were seized in there. We had to blowtorch them out and melt them to get rid of them, but they're all out now. I'm just cleaning up the mating surface of the inlet manifold and I'm going to drop these billet ones in. They should look really nice, and the best part about it is they're not going to crack or split or leak or anything like that, so that's an absolute win. So that was a pig. If you are doing this job and you're planning on replacing your injector cups, be ready to melt them out because they are a nightmare. But persevere and just go carefully with it, but they will melt out if they won't unscrew. They can be a bit of a pain, but as you can see now, I've just got to get all of this old gasket membrane off the inlet manifold and then give it a good scotch up, get it nice and clean so we're ready for the new gasket. So I'll crack on and then we're going to get this built up. Now, anyone who's been following this project will know that the gearbox was always an issue in this car. So internally there was something going on, but then there was also a lot of slop and play in the gear stick, and it just wouldn't grab onto gears correctly. So, and what I've done is, whilst we've taken the exhaust off to get the turbo out, I've taken the opportunity to open up the gear linkage box, and we have found what I think is the problem. So the side-to-side one is not that bad. So as you can see, that one's all right, but then this one here is completely just rubbish. It's gone completely slack. It shouldn't be wobbling about like that, which means obviously when you are selecting, that's binding up there and it shouldn't be. So that should be sat nice and parallel like that, and that should obviously move freely. So we've got to get some gear selector cable end bushings and replace them, and that should be another problem taken care of. But yeah, if you've got sloppy gear changes or something's not quite right, always worth checking these if you've got a Golf. Check out what's missing from here. Yeah, it's an engine. I'm not the new engine because it's there. Right, so the rundown is, it was a nightmare. One of the turbo flange bolts was stuck in, so we had to take the engine out to get to it because you couldn't get to the manifold bolts, you couldn't get to that bolt, and it was just a nightmare. So with the state it was in, with the gearbox off and everything, it was faster to just take it out and get to it on the crane. So that's going to be loads easier. So while it's out, I'm going to stick a timing belt in. What?
It was faster. It only took 9 days.
It hasn't. It's took a couple of hours to get it out. That's it. And half of that was because I was having to get Lucian to concentrate, Dan, and you know that's true.
Skipping all the rest of it then.
Yeah. No, actually, all time invested to take the gearbox out and get the engine out is up to about 6 hours, realistically. The rest of it was just a nightmare, trying to get stuck bolts out, trying to get to things we couldn't get to. I've just told you, trying to get to stuck bolts, trying to get to things we couldn't get to. But that said, now it's out, I can quickly do a timing belt and water pump on it because that's easy because I've got access to everything. We could probably put the gearbox back on when it's out the car, lift it all into place from underneath the car, and we are winning. So let's get that turbo off. That's going to be the fun bit. This, it might seem a knee-jerk reaction to take an engine out for this, but this was the entire reason. This bolt hole here, holding the turbo onto the manifold, as you can see, access was very limited, and that bolt hole is at an offset angle to the actual engine. Now,
You can't see it. In the darkest corner of the world.
I did have a torch a moment ago. Hang on, I have a solution. So, I'll show you under torchlight. So, you can see, that's where it is. Now, as you can see, with the bolt in, the problem is, the access isn't great to get anything on it. Now, that one was completely seized. These two cracked off nicely, and I said to the fellas, I bet you it's cross-threaded. So whichever idiot sent that in, they cross-threaded it and just blasted it home, and that's what they've done to the bolt, which is why I was struggling to get it out. But luckily, I got it out without snapping it. So I'm going to rethread that bolt. I'm going to use it in the new one. If it doesn't work, I'm going to scrap it and get a different bolt. But now we can finally get to it. So the reason I couldn't get the manifold off without taking the turbo off is because if you look down that gap, you'll see that exhaust manifold nut just down there. There is literally no way onto it whatsoever because the coolant return line is there and you can't get anything through to get to it. You can't get a spanner in, can't get a socket in. So it was game over for that. But now that's out, we're sweet. We'll get the turbo swapped, we'll get the timing belt on and we'll throw it back in. So the best news is the turbo is finally out of the car. So I'm just building it up now, getting all the oil feed lines on, the coolant feed lines and the returns. I've filled the cartridge with oil as well because we don't want to run it dry. I'm just slackening that bolt there because that pipe needs a little bit of movement when we send it into the car. So that oil feed line is nice and tight. So next one, let's get the coolant return line on. Oh, there we go. That's playing silly beggars again. Pull it back if this one's not in shot. Okay, right. Yeah, so that one has a washer on, that is good. Right. So kit came with these weird little plasticky, like, synthetic material washers, which I don't like. I've put one on the oil feed line, but I'm not 100% confident in that, if I'm brutally honest. And now is the only time I'm going to be able to change that. And I don't know whether to swap that over, but I think it should be okay. It comes with them, so whereas this one actually has a proper sealing washer on the bottom of it, so I'm probably going to use that instead. Sorry. Yeah, I could actually. By the looks of it, that one that's on there is like a synthetic material, so I could also. Okay, that doesn't fit over the coolant return. So there's not what's supposed to be one for the coolant return then. That's fine. So what we'll do is set it up as it's supposed to be anyway. Let's get the extension on that. This is the thing with these turbos, because there's no access to any of this once they're in, you end up having to mess about and do all of this while it's actually off the vehicle, and then you have to try and put it in constructed, if you like, which can be a little bit of a nightmare, but alas, we keep going. Well, that does not want to turn in that housing now for some reason, and I don't know why. Oh, it does, it's just very stiff. Right. That's not ideal. Which has been the story for most of this car, to be honest. I'll have to get a ratchet on it. Brilliant. So what I don't want the risk, I don't want the risk of this cross-threading at all, because that is a big problem if that happens. Although that's going in nicely, so that's absolutely fine. I just need to set it into the roughly right position, like so. It should sit roughly there, okay. Right, let's lock that down, knee against that. Right, that's in nicely. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, right, next. I'm not a fan of these weird phenolic washers. I don't like them at all. So I'm still in an absolute mess of chaos, but turbo is all built up and looking really fresh and nice, if I do say so myself. But before I put it on and get the coolant return line in the way, I'm going to do the timing belt. So that's just pulling off now. I'm going to whip the bottom pulley off, get it all timed up, swap that over, and then it's finally time to put this all back together. It's been a long one, this. It's only supposed to be a couple of days, but with the advent of like stuck bolts in there in the turbo and everything else, it's just been a pain, but I'm really glad to finally be sort of turning the corner on it. So anyway, I'm going to crack on, and we'll get this timed up and swap the belt out. Finally, timing belt's on, engine mount's just going back on, and then it's time to bolt the turbo in. So I'm just going to crack this up, make sure that's nice and tight. Get the big guns on it. Right, there we go. At least I know that's going to hang securely. So next thing, turbo back on. And this is going to be fun because we've got to feed all these hoses through. So let's get that cracked out. Right, you get round the front then, because we're going to need to, I'm going to need to lift this turbo up into position. You're going to need to guide that hose round again, yeah? So I think it goes over the coolant hose like that, that's it. And yeah, you think you know where it goes anyway, don't you? Yes, I know. Right, so I need to put in the gasket. Damn it. I've screwed that up already.
Yeah, this is not doing what it looks like it should be doing.
Well, just give me a second. The turbo isn't up in position yet. Right, good. That's bolted up. Right, so now I can get the oil return line on. But before I do that, I'm going to get the coolant return.
Are you all set in your positions?
Yeah, you can go ahead now, clean that union up. Make sure if there was a washer on it, it goes on the bottom of the banjo, yeah?
So
against the housing. So if there was a spare washer, which there is, make sure it stays there when you put the banjo on. So put the banjo, put the bolt through, put the washer on, yeah? That's basically what you're doing. Right, great news. Turbo's on. Time to lift it back in. We have a massive jump in the right direction then. The engine's back in, so we put the gearbox on the engine while it was out the car, sent it underneath, lifted it into place. Thankfully, Rob from Ink Dink turned up because we need an extra set of hands. Here he is. So say hello. So now it's just a case of getting all the hoses, power steering lines, aircon lines, all the electrical plugs and everything sent back to where they've got to be to make sure the gearbox is all torqued up, making sure the starter motor is all torqued up. So it's a load of just housekeeping now. Get the dog bone mount back on, and more importantly, turbo inlet pipe obviously needs to go on and all of that kind of system as well. So we are looking good though. Few hours now, we should be ready to start getting them lower arms on, back on the wheels, exhaust back in. We are rocking. So that is a huge jump in the right direction. Right, we're going to crack on, and you'll get some clips of bits and bobs as they're going on, but we'll come back to you with another update soon. We are finally approaching the finish line on the Golf project. So as you know, the engine is all back in. I've already now kitted up the charge pipe. I've put the turbo inlet pipe back in, connected everything back up, and now, after upgrading this PCV valve to the billet connector, I'm just about to start mocking up the catch can and figuring out where that's going to go before we get to the final little bits, which is, there's only a couple of bits to do, which is put the inlet manifold back on, change the fuel pump to the high flow fuel pump and change the fuel filter, and obviously wire those new injectors in when we put the inlet manifold back on. That is literally it, apart from a few wiring plugs and a few hoses. So we are right at the finish line of this now. Once I've got this catch can done and I know exactly where it's going, we're laughing. Now, one of the biggest problems with this car originally, gearbox. That's why we've done all this in the first place, was to get the gearbox sorted. And the problem with the gearbox was you couldn't even select reverse. It was just solid. But now we can absolutely get reverse every single time. We can get first, second, third, fourth and fifth. It is absolutely bang on. So no more issues in that respect. There seems to be someone with extreme flatulence behind me, as you can probably hear on the camera. But this is the problem when you work with a bunch of idiots. This is exactly what happens. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and beat him with this new hose from my catch can. While I do that, keep your eyes peeled for the next update. Get here, you. So we are literally minutes, and I mean minutes away from finally getting the Golf started. After all this work it's had, I'm taking care of a few little remedial issues now, such as the fuel feed hose in the engine bay is quite badly perished. So what I'm just doing is removing it And I've got some fuel line here that I'm going to replace it with. But what I'll do is I'll try and get it close to the camera so you can see, is that it's pretty cooked, to be fair. And now I'm going to be running higher fuel pressure and higher fuel flow. I don't want that giving out and blowing when I'm trying to obviously get more power out of this car. So what I'm going to do is take this new fuel hose and I'm going to stream it. I'm going to basically run it down the old one so we can get our length right. And then we're going to chop it so we've got the same amount of fuel hose, so we know that we can essentially bend it to the same shape. It will take shape eventually once the heat's gotten through it, but obviously it's not manufactured into that shape like the one from factory. So it's looking like we're about there. So really, really handy tip. If you ever got to cut hoses, fuel hose, coolant hose, anything like that, get yourself a good little pair of hose cutters like this, and they just make life super easy. As you can see, cuts it clean and even. And there we go, we've got our fuel hose, so let's get it installed. We are getting dangerously close to firing this car up now. We are moments away, so I'm putting the battery tray back in. We've just spent a little bit of time. We've replaced this vacuum hose up to the brake booster because we've done away with all that system. And we're just now going over, double checking everything, but we are literally moments away. So fuel pump's in and sealed, injectors are in, new plugs and harnesses are on. The DV vacuum line up to the boost gauge is all sorted. We've just spent some time doing that. So I'm literally just screwing the battery tray back in now. And once this battery tray is in, we are going to mount that battery and we are going to twist that key for the first time since all of this came apart. So keep your fingers crossed. We're going to video the whole thing and we'll see how we get on. This is the most nerve-wracking moment of the whole build. As you can see, the battery is now on and everything else is in place, ready to start it. So you are going to get to witness the first turn of the key. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm nervous. I, for some reason, don't think it's going to fire up. But that might just be the pessimist in me. We'll see. So what we're going to do, Charlie, if you keep the camera there, I'm going to put the key in and put the ignition on. Oh, fuel pump's primed. Right, let's turn it. It's going to take a minute because I've got to build up fuel pressure. Oh, yes! So it lives. Woo, get in. Right, okay, it's going to run really weird because it's not used to having that turbo and everything on it, but... Right, I think we might have a slight misfire as well, but that is huge. That is absolutely huge. First turn of the key, it fired up, and I could not be happier. Now, there is going to be a plethora of problems to sort out on this. I have zero doubt about it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a minute just to get it up in the air, run it, have a look for any fluid leaks, make sure nothing's awry in that respect, and we'll see where we get to. But that is a massive step forward. It runs, and next week, it is going to have all those issues fixed. It is going to be tuned, and it's going to fly. So join us in the next one. We'll have some more clips of this coming, but the next one is going to be us tuning it, test driving it, and seeing how we get on. That is mint. Right, keep your eyes peeled for the next update. Yes!